In a quiet house in Brightburn, Kansas, Kyle and Tori Breyer lie in bed, ready to be intimate. Kyle remains hopeful that they might finally conceive a child, while Tori, weary from previous disappointments, just wants to enjoy the moment. Suddenly, a tremor jolts the house, prompting Tori to get up and check. Though the shaking stops momentarily, a loud crash soon follows, rattling the entire home. Through their window, they spot a glowing red light far off in the distance. After that mysterious night, the couple miraculously finds themselves raising a baby boy named Brandon. A decade later, Tori heads to Brandon's room to wake him for school, only to find it empty. Since hide-and-seek is a regular game between them, she whistles to signal him. Brandon responds with a whistle from a distance, playfully taunting her. His voice guides her to the barn, where she searches behind bales of hay but comes up empty. Suddenly, Brandon leaps out, startling her before they both laugh. She embraces him, lovingly reminding him he'll always be her little boy. Outside, Kyle joins them and warns Brandon to follow the barn rules for his own safety. At school, Brandon is called on to answer a question about bees and wasps. He confidently explains that bees pollinate while wasps are hunters. He even brings up the police sulcifer, a parasitic species that tricks other insects into raising its offspring. His classmate Royce mocks him for over-explaining, causing the class to laugh. Except for Caitlin, they share a smile. That evening, Tori checks on Brandon before painting. Suddenly, a red light pulses from a barn while Brandon begins convulsing in his sleep. Tori, hearing a strange noise, pauses, but when the episode subsides, she returns to painting. Moments later, Brandon climbs out his bedroom window and a loud thud alerts Tori. Investigating outside, she finds nothing unusual until she senses someone dart past her. Sprinting through the drying laundry, she catches a brief glimpse of Brandon's back before he vanishes. Her search leads her to the barn, where she finds Brandon whispering in a foreign tongue and desperately tugging at chain doors. Despite her repeated calls, he doesn't respond until she touches him, prompting him to turn around in confusion. Tori comforts him, claiming he was sleepwalking. Brandon, however, insists he heard voices. To avoid alarming him, she brushes it off and takes it back to bed. When Kyle later checks in, Tori hides the truth, telling him Brandon merely wandered downstairs in his sleep. The following day, Kyle opens up to Brandon about the challenges they faced when first adopting him. Left alone with the boy, Kyle manages to connect with him using candy, cementing their father-son bond. The two share the treat before Kyle heads off, leaving Brandon to mow the lawn. Frustrated when a mower won't start, Brandon hurls the machine across the yard with alarming strength. Shocked, he examines the overturned machine with spinning blades. Mysterious voices echo in his mind, compelling him to thrust his hand into the blades. The mower shatters, but Brandon's hand remains untouched. On his 12th birthday, the family gathers at a diner with Tori's sister, Marilee, and her husband, Noah. Marilee, who also serves as Brandon's school counselor, praises his brilliance. Noah presents Brandon with a hunting rifle as a birthday gift, which Kyle immediately confiscates due to his age. When Brandon demands the gun back and slams his fist on the table, the arcade screens nearby flicker. Concerned by his behavior, Kyle ends the celebration. Brandon refuses to leave, prompting Kyle to forcefully grab him, causing another flicker. Tori calms Brandon, and a waitress named Erica watches them uneasily as they depart. At home, Tori and Kyle discuss Brandon's disturbing changes. Tori recalls their own rebellious teen years and vows to parent better than her own. Kyle agrees and suggests they take a break by camping in Drivewood. The next morning, as they prepare, Tori reminds Brandon about his jacket, but he ignores her while eating. Kyle finds Brandon chewing on a fork and quickly pulls it away, startling Brandon, who seems unaware he bent the utensil. While gathering his things, Tori discovers drawings under his bed, some of naked women, which amuses the couple at first, but their mood darkens when the drawings turn graphic, featuring human organs. They decide to address it with Brandon later. While hunting, Kyle awkwardly discusses sexual urges with Brandon, trying to frame them in the context of love and self-restraint. Brandon misunderstands, thinking the talk is about a different type of craving, making Kyle in the chat uncomfortably. Later that night, at Caitlin's house, eerie music from her laptop wakes her. She shuts it, but it resumes playing. Nervous, she closes it again and notices strange notes on top. Feeling uneasy, she glances at the window and quickly calls her mother, Erica. Bursting into the room, Erica startles Caitlin, who points in fear at the window. Erica finds nothing, but Caitlin insists she saw Brandon outside. Meanwhile, Tori is frantically searching the forest for Brandon, who reappears calmly, claiming he just needed to pee. At school, Tori discusses Brandon's troubling behavior with Marilee. Marilee assures her it's likely just puberty. Relieved, Tori picks up Brandon and catches him doodling odd symbols, which he hides quickly. That night, Kyle is disturbed by the chickens and goes to the barn armed, expecting a wild animal, but instead finding Brandon standing silently as the animals panic. Kyle scolds him and brings him home. The next morning, he discovers all the chickens have been slaughtered. He shows Tori the locked coop, suggesting Brandon is responsible, though she dismisses the idea. During a school trust exercise, Brandon is intentionally dropped by Caitlin, who calls him a pervert. Forced by the coach, she tries to help him up, but he grips her hand so tightly that he crushes it. The aftermath brings both families and the sheriff into a meeting with the principal. Erica, furious, demands punishment, but the school opts only for suspension and counseling. Outraged, she accuses Brandon's mother of being unstable. Tori defends herself and Brandon, firmly scolding Erica for attacking a child. She then apologizes for Caitlin's injury before leaving. Back home, Tori admits to Kyle that Brandon wasn't sleepwalking that night. He was drawn to the trapdoor. Kyle is now more worried, reminding her that Brandon isn't a normal human and might be dangerous. That night, Brandon lies in bed when he finally pieces together the whisper's meaning. He walks outside into the storm and heads to the barn. At the same time, Tori searches for clues about his origins when she spots the same red glow from before. Rushing to the barn, she discovers Brandon levitating above the light. Brandon confronts his mother, demanding to know the truth about what he is. Tori finally opens up, revealing their struggles with infertility and how his arrival came by an alien spacecraft. Feeling betrayed by the lie, Brandon pulls away in anger and storms outside. He suddenly deciphers the whispers in his head, "Take the world," and cries out with eyes glowing red. Later, Brandon sneaks into Caitlin's room, holding flowers as a peace offering. Despite his gesture, Caitlin is terrified. He insists she has no reason to fear him because she's one of the few who knows he's special. When Caitlin says her mother forbade her from seeing him, Brandon replies ominously, "I'll take care of it." At the diner that night, Erica is cleaning when she notices strange symbols drawn on the glass. Assuming it's a prank, she calls out for Gary. The lights begin to flicker wildly before the bulbs explode, sending a shard straight into her eye. Bleeding heavily, Erica yanks the glass out and stumbles around the diner, barely able to see. Grabbing a bat in panic, she swings at the air before locking herself inside the freezer. Suddenly, red-hot beams slice through the metal, and the door is ripped open. In the entrance stands Brandon, cloaked and masked, his eyes glowing with red fury. And finally, Erica dies. Meanwhile, Tori and Kyle sit at breakfast the next morning, nervously awaiting Brandon's return after his outburst. When he appears calm and composed, they're briefly reassured. Elsewhere, the sheriff investigates Erica's disappearance and notices a peculiar symbol etched onto the window. He breathes on the glass to reveal the full symbol. During a counseling session, Marilee questions Brandon about his adoption. He reveals that since learning the truth, he now sees himself as a superior being. When she pushes him to express remorse over Caitlin's injury, and he refuses, she informs him that she must file a report with the sheriff. This sends Brandon into a silent rage. At a local bar, Kyle and his friends discuss Erica's death. EJ hints that Brandon might have been involved because of what happened with Caitlin, though he quickly apologizes when Kyle objects. Kyle admits he's starting to fear Brandon is becoming dangerous. Noah brushes it off, claiming all kids go through a dark phase. That evening, Marilee is alone at home when Brandon arrives. He subtly threatens her, warning her against submitting the report. She stands her ground and tells him to leave. Though he grins with menace, he walks away. After locking the door, Marilee texts Noah and goes to bed, unaware that Brandon watches from the shadows. As she sleeps, Brandon slips into her room, but Noah's arrival interrupts him. While brushing his teeth, Noah hears something in the closet. When he opens it, he's shocked to see Brandon dressed in his costume. Furious, Noah drags him out to the truck. On the way, Brandon tells him not to inform his parents, but Noah brushes him off. Once they get in the truck, the lights flicker and Brandon disappears from the passenger seat. As Noah leans over to check, Brandon reappears in his mask. Noah grabs him, only to be blasted by heat vision. Terrified, Noah flees to the truck and speeds away. But Brandon slams into the vehicle mid-drive, sending it veering off course. As Noah tries desperately to restart the engine, the headlights reveal Brandon standing still in the road. The lights go out, and when they flicker back, Brandon is gone, then reappears in the air. He lifts the truck and drops it. The impact drives Noah's face into the steering wheel, breaking his jaw. As he blacks out, Brandon uses Noah's blood to mark the pavement with a symbol. Back home, Tori frantically tries calling Marilee while Kyle sits in worried silence. Brandon eventually returns, hiding his shirt in his arms. Tori hugs him and asks what happened. He lies, saying he was bullied during soccer. But when he walks away, Tori and Kyle realize he isn't telling the truth. Powerless to seek professional help for a non-human child, they argue about what to do. Kyle blames himself, saying they try to raise a child who was never meant to be human. That night, Kyle dreams of the moment they found Brandon in the woods. He remembers baby Brandon bleeding, and when Tori handed him over, Kyle momentarily imagined a monster in his arms. He wakes up when Marilee calls, and the couple rushes to the hospital, shocked by Noah's condition. Marilee reveals Brandon had visited her the night before. In the morning, they speak with Brandon and are disturbed by his lack of emotion about Noah's death. Tori gently asks if he knows anything, but Brandon lies again. Kyle loses his temper, convinced Brandon killed his friend. Brandon reacts by shoving Kyle into a cabinet. Tori separates them and sends Brandon to his room. Suspicious, Kyle sneaks into Brandon's room while he showers and finds a hidden shirt stained with blood. He pretends to make peace, but privately shows the evidence to Tori. She refuses to believe it. Kyle argues that Brandon isn't truly their son. Hurt, Tori walks away. While investigating the crash site, the sheriff finds the same symbol seen earlier, now painted in blood. At home, Kyle reflects on raising Brandon and remembers the love he once felt. He tells Tori he's taking Brandon camping to reconnect. She embraces him, hopeful for a change. The next morning, they set off in silence. While they're gone, the sheriff visits Tori to ask about Brandon. He shows her a photo of the symbol, suspecting it represents the initials BB, Brandon Breyer. Tori pretends not to know, but after he leaves, she runs to Brandon's room and discovers a notebook filled with drawings of the same symbol. As she flips through, she finds disturbing sketches of Erica and Noah's deaths. Out in the woods, Kyle and Brandon walk together until Kyle suddenly pulls out a gun. Tearfully, he aims and fires at Brandon's head, but Brandon is unharmed. Shocked, Kyle tries to reload, but Brandon vanishes. Kyle runs, but Brandon quickly captures him and slams him to the ground. As Kyle begs for his life, Brandon stares coldly, then fires lasers through his skull, and finally he dies. Back at home, Tori calls Kyle's phone, only to hear Brandon's voice. She refuses to believe what he tells her, even when he confirms Kyle is gone. When she asks where he is, he answers, home, before crushing the phone. Tori screams as Brandon begins destroying the house. She calls 911, but Brandon severs the line. The sheriff and a deputy arrive to find the home in ruins. Tori runs to meet them, but Brandon kills the sheriff instantly. The deputy tells Tori to hide and radios for help, but Brandon interferes with the signal. She's in the middle of reporting when Brandon appears behind her. He hurls her violently through the house, leaving her broken and bruised near where Tori is hiding under the bed. Brandon checks under the bed, but doesn't see her. She's already escaped through the window. She injures her hand in the fall, which triggers a memory of Brandon's similar injury. Realizing it's a clue that part of the spacecraft can make Brandon bleed, she rushes to the barn, Brandon chasing close behind. Inside, she runs to the spacecraft and examines it. The ship begins glowing, revealing Erica's mutilated corpse. Horrified, Tori sobs. Steeling herself, she breaks off a sharp shard of metal from the ship and hides it behind her. Tori calls out to Brandon, using their familiar whistle game to lure him in. When he finds her, she approaches slowly, hoping to appeal to his better nature. As he relaxes in her arms, she raises the shard, ready to end it, but Brandon catches her. Feeling the pain of betrayal, he screams in heartbreak and fury. Brandon lifts Tori into his arms and blasts upward, crashing through the barn's roof. The impact leaves her head bleeding, and as they ascend higher into the night sky, she gently places a hand on his face. But without hesitation, Brandon lets go, sending her falling helplessly to her death, and finally, she dies. Soon after, Brandon notices an approaching airplane and decides to use it to cover up what happened at the Breyer home. He causes the crash, staging it to look like the destruction was caused by the aircraft. Brightburn movie ends with a news reporter cover the bizarre incident, while Brandon calmly eats a cookie, and finally, the broadcast describes him as the only person to survive the mysterious plane crash. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notification so you don't miss the latest recaps. Thanks for watching and wish you good health.